Has Ferrari been hiding the biggest evolution of the season, and no one has noticed until now? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. Because what is about to appear at the Miami GP is not a simple improvement, it is a change so profound that it could completely transform the performance of the SF-26, or completely sink its aspirations. Stay, because what Ferrari has been secretly preparing for weeks could change everything. The start of the 2026 season has been a blow of reality for Ferrari, one of those moments where expectations collide directly with the track and reveal problems that cannot be hidden with speeches or promises. Because although the superficial results could suggest a certain competitiveness, the telemetry tells a completely different story, a story where the SF-26 is born with a contradiction in its DNA that conditions absolutely all of its performance. Ferrari decided to go for a very clear concept: sacrifice power in its power unit to gain aerodynamic efficiency under the new regulations. On paper, this idea made sense, especially in an era where energy management and overall car efficiency are more important than ever. But in practice, that decision has put them at a critical disadvantage against their direct rivals, especially Mercedes, which has not only maintained efficiency, but also dominates in top speed, creating a gap that Ferrari simply cannot make up for on the straight. The most revealing of all this was seen at circuits like Suzuka, where the SF-26 showed its true colors. In the first sector, full of technical curves, the car was competitive, even dominant in the hands of Charles Leclerc, demonstrating that the chassis is, without exaggeration, one of the best on the grid. But as soon as the straights arrived, all that work fell apart. Ferrari not only lost time, it was directly overtaken without the possibility of defense, showing that the problem is not punctual, but structural. And this is where a key factor that many are underestimating comes in: the new energy era of Formula One. The famous super clipping not only limits electrical deployment, but completely changes the way in which drivers manage each lap. Both Leclerc and Hamilton have had to adapt to a completely different driving style, reprogramming instincts that they have spent years perfecting. This is not a simple adjustment, it is a profound change in the way of racing, and Ferrari has failed to optimize it from the beginning. In fact, the situation came to a head when Lewis Hamilton reported having less power than his own teammate in Japan, something Ferrari recognized as a calibration issue. This detail, which may seem minor, actually exposes a huge weakness. The team does not have its own energy system completely under control, something unforgivable in a regulation where every thousandth depends precisely on that. However, and this is what keeps the narrative alive, the SF-26 is not a failed car. Quite the opposite. Its foundation is so good that, even with these limitations, Ferrari has achieved podiums and has remained the most consistent team behind the leaders. This means that the problem is not in the overall concept of the car, but in key parts that are limiting its true potential. And precisely for this reason, what Ferrari has prepared for Miami is not a normal evolution. It is a direct response to all these accumulated problems, a kind of covert technical restart that seeks to correct in one fell swoop everything that did not work in the first races. They are not refining details, they are trying to change the course of their entire season. But the big question is inevitable. Can single update package really fix such deep errors, or are we facing a desperate move that could go wrong? Ferrari is risking absolutely everything, because what they have prepared for Miami is not a simple visible improvement that you can identify in a photo or in a superficial comparison, but a much deeper transformation, designed to directly attack the heart of its weaknesses. And this is where the most dangerous and at the same time most promising concept in this entire story comes in: hidden changes. Ferrari has focused much of its development on something that cannot be seen with the naked eye, but that in modern Formula One can make enormous differences: energy management software. This new system is not a minor update, it is practically a complete rewrite of how the SF-26 distributes, recovers, and deploys energy throughout the loop. In a regulation where super clipping conditions every acceleration and every defense, having a more efficient algorithm can be equivalent to gaining tenths on each straight line without having to physically touch the engine. This is key to understand because Ferrari cannot recover those 7 or 8 kilometers per hour deficit in top speed overnight with raw power alone. What they are trying to do is something much smarter: optimize when and how they use electric power to make the car more competitive at critical moments of the lap. That is to say, they do not seek to be faster always, but rather to be faster when it really matters, in overtaking, in defense, and in key areas of the circuit such as the long straights of Miami. But the story doesn't end here. Because this package does not come alone. Ferrari has worked in parallel on extremely subtle aerodynamic adjustments, changes in airflow efficiency, and modifications that do not necessarily change the appearance of the car, but its behavior on the track. This type of evolution fits perfectly with the philosophy they had already adopted: a very strong car in curves with a solid mechanical base, but that needed to release performance in areas where it was completely limited. The problem is that all this happens under enormous pressure. Ferrari is not developing from a dominant position, but from the urgent need to close the gap with rivals who have already proven to have a much more complete package. Teams like Mercedes not only have an advantage on the straight, but have also managed to better integrate the new energy regulations from the beginning, which gives them a competitive stability that Ferrari has not yet achieved. And this is where internal tension also begins to play an important role. What happened with Hamilton in Japan, reporting power differences with respect to Leclerc, is not just a specific error. It is a sign that the system was not yet completely optimized or balanced between both cars. This new package arrives precisely to correct those inconsistencies, but it also adds a layer of uncertainty. When you change something so fundamental, you can not only improve, you can also destabilize the entire set. Ferrari is entering uncharted territory. You are betting on a solution that, in theory, can unlock the full potential of the SF-26, but that in practice must work perfectly from the first moment. There is no room for failure, there is no time for progressive adaptation, and any error can further amplify the problems that already exist. And then the question becomes inevitable. What happens if this package does not work as expected? What if the problem wasn't just energy management, but something deeper that they haven't even identified yet? Because if there is something clear at this point in the story, is that Ferrari is not only trying to improve its car, is risking its entire season in a single move. And so we come to the point where everything is decided, because the final act of this story is not just about an update, it is about consequences. Ferrari has built this entire movement thinking of Miami as the turning point, as the race where the SF-26 must stop being a car with limited potential and become a true contender. But in Formula One, especially under regulations as complex as those of 2026, there's no guarantee that a technical revolution will work as expected from the first moment. If this package delivers as promised, the scenario changes radically. Ferrari would not only cut the disadvantage on the straight thanks to better energy management, but it could unlock all the performance it already has in corners, combining the best of both worlds. And that is where the SF-26 becomes truly dangerous, because it has already shown that its base is solid, that its chassis responds, and that in the hands of drivers like Leclerc and Hamilton it can constantly fight at the top. In that scenario, Ferrari would go from being the third team to becoming a real threat to Mercedes and McLaren in a matter of a single race. But the other side of the coin is much darker, and also much more realistic than many want to admit. Because when you introduce such profound changes, especially in invisible systems like energy software, the risk is not simply not getting better, the risk is getting worse. Poor energy deployment, incorrect calibration, or a lack of synchronization between engine and aerodynamics can cause exactly the opposite of what they are looking for: an even more inconsistent car, more difficult to drive, and more unpredictable in the race. And in that scenario, the impact would not only be technical, it would be psychological and strategic. Ferrari would no longer have room for immediate reaction because much of its development has been invested in this package. If it fails, they not only lose performance, they lose time. And in a championship where every race counts, that can be definitive. Furthermore, internal pressure would increase, especially after situations like that in Japan, where tensions were already evident due to differences in performance between both drivers, something that this package should solve, but which could also aggravate if it does not work correctly. The most interesting thing is that Ferrari is not making this decision out of comfort, but out of necessity. They are not leading, they are not controlling the pace of the championship, and that forces them to take risks that other teams do not need to take. It is an aggressive, calculated move, but also desperate at a certain point. And this is where it all comes down to one idea. Miami is not just another race on the calendar, it is an ultimate test. It is the moment where Ferrari is going to discover if it really understood its problems, or if it has simply been pursuing a solution that was not the right one. Because in the end, in modern Formula One, the one who changes the most doesn't win. The one who understands the best wins. And right now, Ferrari is about to show if it has really done it, or if this hidden package will be remembered as the big opportunity that missed them. And in the end, it all comes down to one reality. Ferrari has reached a point where it can no longer hide behind potential. Now it needs results. Because the SF-26 has shown that it has a base capable of competing, a car that can face anyone in curves, but it has also made it clear that without correcting its structural weaknesses, it will never be enough to truly win. Miami is not just an opportunity, it is a trial. It is the moment where all the decisions made for weeks, all the silent work in Maranello, and all those hidden changes are going to confront the only truth that matters in Formula One, the stopwatch. There are no theories here, no simulations, no excuses. It either works or it doesn't. If Ferrari gets it right, we won't just see a jump in performance, we'll see a complete change in the narrative of the season. They will go from pursuers to real contenders, from a team with doubts to one that can constantly put pressure on the leaders. But if they fail, the blow could be much deeper than losing a race, because it would mean that the SF-26 problem goes deeper than they thought, and that time to solve is no longer on their side. Because at this point in history, Ferrari is not evolving, it is gambling. And in sport where every detail counts, where every thousandth defines championships, that bet can turn them into protagonists or leave them out of the fight much sooner than expected. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.